Now, for one of my favorite Sunday traditions, a big mug of coffee, stand by, and the newspapers. So let's go through it. This morning, I have Faith Daniels with us. She's the head of news at Kagiso Media to help me go through the Sunday papers. Faith, such a pleasure to see you again. I can't remember the last time we saw each other.
But I think,
yeah, no,
because we're going to give away our
age and our history and designation and all those things. But listen, thank you so much for availing yourself on a Sunday morning. Before we go through the papers, let's quickly run through the front pages. Starting off with the Sunday Times, and their headline this morning is much ado about he said, she said, he said he was going to kill me. That's the quote this morning. The story is police watchdog head Robert McBride accused of throttling a 15-year-old girl and punching her in the face. He says he has done nothing of the sort. In fact, it was just rebuking a teenager for some of their misdemeanors. A picture there, Grace Unplugged in blue. We were busy debating what kind of blue that is. I said it's ENCA blue. Someone said if you look at her eyeshadow, she really gives the term blue eye a new name or new found significance. But we'll go through that in just a moment. Let's move to the City Press up next. A secret plot to oust Mbaks is what they're going with there. Mbalula and his senior ministry staff threatened and now have 24-hour police protection. We understand that the safety of his family was also called into question. Project Wonder is what is being called there. Allegedly a backlash by rogue police officers loyal to suspended police bosses. We go to the Sunday Independent up next, where white wife jibe backfires is the headline. FNB axes for ANC supporting employees over email rants. And they also have a story there of the alleged assassination attempt or plot against the Minister of Police. Millions visit Mecca is their picture there in the Sunday Independent. We go to, where shall we go to up next? I'm inundated with newspapers here, struggling to find my way. All right, let's see if we can go to the Sunday World. Somizi Bonang at war, that's their main story. I can't say that word on live TV, but it's the beep hits the fan over Mateba's memoirs. Some Gaga and Euphonic want their names out of Queen Bee's book. That's the story that they're leading with this morning. All right, let's get into it. Let's get into it. Faith, I'm going to have you have the first dibs. Where do you want to go to first? Sunday Times?
Let's talk about the Somizi saga first, right? Because that's the recent book that I read that was recalled, yes. Right? So I and as many other people have a lot to say about this on Twitter, right? And I think that, I mean, I see now that Euphonic and Somizi want their names out of the book, but they're in all of like 2 pages. You know?
Right, so, at the end.
So I don't know exactly like what exactly do they want out, because it's like a mere mention and gone, poof, gone with all the grammatical errors and whatever, you know, but...
And she also says...
substantial.
Yeah, she says, you know, for years she hasn't commented while people, you know, laid her name strewn across all sorts of social media, tweets, etc., accusing her of this, accusing her of that. Hashtag Shanyos, I think, Noinke, all those things. And she said she never said anything. And this is her opportunity to give right of reply. And then she said freedom of speech. But they, of course, are not having any of it. So Mizi's people, as it were, or his management and his team saying, you know what, let's do this amicably, take the name out of there.
For me, it's very surprising because it's all of 2 pages. But anyways, maybe, you know, like they feel very strongly about those 2 pages. Hey. I don't know. But the story that's on the front page of the Sunday Independent also piqued my interest. I mean, this is all about what FNB staff allegedly said in a WhatsApp group and emails about DA leader Mmusi Maimane, and they've now lost their jobs because of it. And it's made me think about, you know, like all of these WhatsApp groups and what people say and what people say outside of work, but you're still in a group, you know, with your peers, with your work. And it's going to be an interesting test case, I think, because like these guys they've lost their jobs. The case have been at the CCMA, but I think that like if they want to take it up again, I'm interested to know how this unfolds, because who do you know that's not part of a work-related WhatsApp group? And the things that we say, you know, look, what they've said in terms of being directed at Mmusi Maimane and his wife, it's very, very derogatory, and it's very, very hurtful, I suppose, for anybody who's affected by this. But they were subsequently slapped with 10 charges by the employer, including gross misconduct and breach of their duty of good faith towards the bank. you know. And they were saying, as I read the article, people were saying that, well, their communications were intercepted.
Yeah.
You know, but you know, and this is where the whole thing about like what you say in these groups. You know, you get an invitation, you accept
or what you forward as well. Because someone sends you something, you then send it along. And a lot of political innuendo that's in these messages as well. But they've now come out to say, if we had spoken against President Jacob Zuma or in favor of the DA, we wouldn't have been fired.
Yes.
I'm going to read one of those messages that they forwarded here. So this is in small print. Please bear with me. It says, leaders, as we wake up, even on a Saturday and going to slavery, let us also not forget that a black employee cannot afford to buy a house, cannot afford to buy a car, and also cannot afford to provide basic commodities for his or her family. Leaders, it is upon us to fight for equality and to transform that untransformed FNB. Leaders, it is also true that the time is now. Those are some of the conversations they were having.
I mean, for me, the one that stands out is that one employee said, I'm shocked Mmusi Maimani's wife is white. And then the other person replies, white voice, white party, white wife. Very soon he will be a Michael Jackson and bleach his skin.
Yeah. So that got them into serious trouble, losing their job. And one of the employees saying he's a 30-year-old father of three. He can't support his family anymore, extended family members as well. So this will be a very interesting case study. I think I agree with you there, Faith.
And the photo on the Sunday Times of Grace Mugabe, you discussed a color scheme and her eyeshadow.
Yes.
Sporting the new hairstyle.
Listen, I looked at the hairstyle and I thought it looks very similar to mine. I don't know who wore it best. But yeah, she's looking like she's out and she doesn't care what South Africans are saying about her. She's making a statement clearly in this picture.
I'll tell you that. Showing no signs of strain after causing a storm in South Africa. And I think that, like, I mean, South Africans have a lot to say still about this. I mean, obviously, because here we have these two, the picture of Grace Mugabe and then the story on Robert McBride, right? And the story with Robert McBride goes that he allegedly assaulted one of his family members. It's a teenage girl. And Robert McBride responded already saying that it's a red herring, etc., etc. And now they've pitched this and included Duduzi Manana's incident, Grace Mugabe's incident in that article. And I was just thinking that, well, you know, nowhere do we say that, like, actually we explore the fact that, well, Grace Mugabe skipped the country, people, you know? I mean, and can we honestly discuss this? In terms of like what is happening in the country, you know, what are we going to do? Like AfriForum is heading up this case on behalf of Gabriella Engels, but where is it going to land? I mean, she has diplomatic. But the fact that they are actively pursuing this case on behalf of this model, you know, I mean, Grace Mugabe doesn't seem unfazed at all.
Listen, interesting, I think, again, is the word I would use for this and how it's going to end up, you know, and what Maitengwana Mashavani, the minister, is going to say, how she's going to deal with it, how she's going to prove that she was here for, you know, matters that warrant diplomatic immunity because of the timing of her arrival. Was she here for SADC? Was she here for personal use, for health matters, etc.? So that's an interesting one. But I can't find where the story is now, but I know in one of the newspapers this morning, some of the traditional leaders are now saying, well, if Grace Mugabe can get diplomatic immunity, we want diplomatic... There it is. Yeah, it's in the, it's in the Sunday Times. We want the diplomatic immunity for King Buyela Khaya Dalindyebo. Yeah.
For me, this is what happens when you handle the situation so poorly and so badly. I mean, even in terms of just communicating the basics, right? I mean, it took us a while to establish, well, is she in the country? Is she not in the country? You remember the police minister. He went on air saying that, well, she's appearing in court. This is the court. This is the courtroom. And Grace Mugabe was nowhere. You know, so for me, it's just
again, especially after the...
And how it was handled just from the start. I mean, it seemed like nobody actually knew which department was going to take responsibility for handling the matter, who's going to speak on the matter, is she still in the country, is she not in the country? And before we knew it, Grace Mugabe was out of the country.
And it opens up a can of worms because now people are saying, I also want diplomatic immunity for all manner of things.
And on what ground are you going to say that they don't deserve it?
Couldn't agree with you more. Shall we go to the plot to oust Mr. Raz Mataz. I think it's there in the City Press. The Sunday Independent also touches on it, but they go to great lengths to unpack the story. Their secret plot to oust Mbaks is what they're going with. Their report states that the cell phones of 5 cabinet ministers are allegedly tapped. Pictured there, talk to us. You know, they're asking for comments and suggestions, but clockwise from left is Burning in Tlemeza. Khomozo Phahlane also fingered there. We also have the likes of Richard Mdluli.
This, for me, is just a bizarre story. It's as bizarre as the top brass of police always being in the papers, like Robert McBride as well.
Right.
And for me, this plot and the fact that it includes Mbaks, it includes I think his bodyguard, his advisor, Bongani Mbindwane, and just the people mentioned. It's just, for me, it's like it's just a completely bizarre plot. You know, and it's prominent in the City Press, and it's prominent in, I think, the Sunday Independent today as well. But for me also, I mean, just look at the information that's coming out. His senior ministry staff threatened and now have 24-hour police protection, and this Project Wonder allegedly a backlash by rogue police officers loyal to suspended police bosses. And then obviously now it goes back to like the camps, the factions, who is heading this and all of this. The report states that the cell phones of 5 cabinet ministers are allegedly tapped. I mean, how bizarre is this?
It doesn't inspire confidence to tell you now. Law enforcement officials or crime-fighting units that are supposed to keep our streets safe, embroiled in this kind of controversy. Nothing new, of course, you know that as well. But I mean, who are we supposed to turn to? And the men and women in blue on the ground, how are they supposed to feel confident? How are you supposed to renew the image of the SAPS and the crime-fighting units?
But this is exactly the point. I mean, the point of these men in blue heading up these portfolios within the police ministry, within the sector, is to protect us as a nation. Now you have the police minister today speaking about this plot, saying, I'm shocked and extremely disappointed that this has gotten this far. I've been aware of work environment difficulties, but did not think they would escalate to this potential lawlessness.
I don't know if you want to then go inside one or two of the newspapers. City Press also has a story. Hanekom stands ground on ethics. I don't know if you've managed to see Mr. Zuma there going out against Mr. Gordon. All of the factions within the ANC and the disruption of speeches and the like. I mean, it's going to be a long countdown to December.
Look, I must say that Derek Hanekom has been, I mean, he's been a consistent voice. And whether he spoke like he spoke here at the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation, whether it's on Twitter, whether it's wherever he is, he's been a consistent voice in highlighting the wrongs within the party. I mean, there's a lovely quote where he says that the struggle is inside and outside the ANC. Those of us inside will not give up the fight, you know? And for me, he's been that consistent voice, and he hasn't, you know, backed down. And for me, the thing is the threat of like DC, the fact that like Gwede Mantashe wrote this letter to him saying that he must explain his utterances and so on, etc. He's saying, look, I'm standing firm. I'm going to be unmoved about like what even my party wants from me, but I'm going to speak truth to power. And that must be commendable, I think. I mean, there's a couple of leaders in the party that is consistently speaking out, and he is a formidable voice, and I think it must be commended.
Faith, before I let you go, you know, you and I are part of the working class. We are slaving away on a Sunday morning, reading newspapers and the like. But there are people outside there who can afford to buy underwear for 300,000 rand. That's the story in the Sunday World. Says a tycoon buys 300,000 rand panty. And it says here, which, you know, caught my attention, that Nelson Mandela, the late great statesman, was among those who frequented this particular shop. It says he was among black South Africans, men who blew their wealth on luxury underwear. That's according to La Perla Boutique in Ilovo Santon, that sells top-of-the-range underwear that costs up to 300 rand a piece. And the quote that got me was from one of the people who obviously designed this underwear, some of the underwear laced with real gold, Faith, you know. It says here, quote, black men identify with La Perla, and that is all they want. So, yeah, one of the most loved items in the shop is the Mason Rage, which is silk with embroidered lace.
I've never heard of the shop. I can't identify with it. Like 300,000.
So if you had 300K lying around, girl, let me know. Let's go shopping.
The 3-year-old.
I know. I've got kids
will
too.
Come in handy.
I think the only brands we're buying are nappy brands and formula and all manner of things. But I thought, hey, you know, for those who can, why not? It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us. Faith Daniels taking us through the papers.